Good evening. Tonight, I wanted to talk about the Dogman. So, as fantastical as it may be, as outrageous as it may seem, people all across the United States, especially down in the South and more in the southern United States, but even into Wyoming and Montana and the Midwest and up north, people are seeing these creatures. And what people are seeing is an upright walking canine with long teeth and a snout and powerful jaws, 7, 8, 9 feet tall, broad shoulders, something akin to like a Hollywood werewolf. When you first hear about this, maybe you're into Bigfoot, maybe you come across a video, it seems very odd. Because when we talk about Bigfoot, there's evidence in our fossil record for them, there's evidence for them all through native traditions, and there's hundreds of thousands of sightings, tens of thousands of sightings happen every year. People see them all the time. It's always funny when people say there's no evidence for Bigfoot. It's like, well, we have tracks, we have photographs, we have photos, we have hair samples, we have DNA, we have hundreds of thousands of eyewitness reports. We have handprints, we have fingerprints, we have whatever you want. We have a lot of evidence for Bigfoot. It's out there. If you've done more than 5 minutes of research, you'll find it. But it seems like if you look at our fossil record and all the different types of hominid creatures that related to humans somewhere distantly, and then the inclusion of great apes and how we seem to be tied into these creatures and how they have a lot of very human-like behaviors. So there's a lot of things going for Bigfoot really existing, of being a regular old natural creature, something that's occurring, something that's been here for a long time, something hiding out in the woods. They certainly have a very mysterious side to them, other than being kind of the forest ninjas and just being very efficient. People see Bigfoot. It's often laughed about, but they're really there, and anybody who's into this subject knows it. But when you're into Bigfoot, you start hearing about these Dogman creatures, and if you look all through our fossil record, there's no evidence for an upright walking canine. And there's lots of variations of these in sightings, just like you get with Bigfoot. The whole concept of a Dogman seems to be one purpose, seems to be bred for fear, being ferocious. There's a lot of theories that these things were bred long ago to fight off giants and the Nephilim. I don't know about all that. I find all this stuff fascinating. And like I said, we talk about a lot of stuff on this channel. I don't necessarily believe it, but I think it's all interesting, and you should, listen to everything that's out there and don't just dismiss it. But I've been doing a lot of research into the Dogman, listening to a lot of podcasts, listening to researchers that know a lot more than me, listening to eyewitness reports, and there seems to be two very different things going on with the Dogman. One is people are seeing these creatures, sometimes in packs, varying between 5 and 6 feet tall, all the way up to 7, 8, 9, 10 feet tall, with an older gray one maybe being the alpha, with smaller ones, with young ones, kind of like a wolf pack, except standing upright. And much like wolves can be very ferocious, these things can be very ferocious. A lot of people report these things as being through their property maybe a certain time of the year and moving on, very much like a natural creature. People also have witnessed these things out hunting and watched them eating berries or digging in the dirt or eating or just hunting and eating and doing all the things you would expect a natural animal to do, or sleeping. People have come across these things curled up and sleeping, and they thought it was a giant wolf. And then when it woke up, it scampered around on 4 legs and then stood up and walked off. It's very fascinating that people report these being a natural creature, or being a natural creature and being a very physical creature, much like Bigfoot, where they have to eat, sleep, and hunt. And then it kind of brings us to people report these things as being a little bit different as well. People report spotting these Dogman-like creatures, but getting an intense feeling of dread. Now, if you ever come in close contact to a grizzly bear or a large carnivore lion, it can scare you. It can be frightening. You get the pit in your stomach. But nothing like some of these creatures are reported to give. They're reported to give off a very feeling of dread. And just by the looks of these things, you understand. But like I said, if there's one type of Dogman that seems to be a very corporal, physical animal, so to speak, there seems to be something else people are seeing. It seems to be a very supernatural version of these creatures. There's reports of people shooting at them to having no effect, to where unloading with high powered rifles, semi-automatic 308s, shooting buckshot at these things, and they seem to kind of react to it like they realize something's happening, but they don't seem to really have any adverse effect. And there's even reports where people have been able to blow chunks of flesh off of these different type of dogmen, we'll call them, and it's real smelly or putrid, and it seems just otherworldly, like there's some kind of indestructible, like God mode, so to speak. And it's very odd, and people tend to attribute this to being demonic, which is kind of a catch-all phrase to something we don't understand. It seems to be inherently evil, or to possess features that we don't necessarily understand or can comprehend. Now, if they're interdimensional, if they're phasing in and out of another dimension, I know is one theory, and you can kind of see them, but maybe they're not really there and the bullets are whizzing through, or maybe their composition is something that we don't understand, where physical damage isn't quite the same as it is for us and other creatures, is kind of a theory. There's also theories that these are straight up some kind of a demon that are taking a physical form, and this physical form can possibly be destroyed but take lots of damage, or to the point to where they are pretty much invincible. And there's also theories that I discussed last night with Dave the Outlandish. I was on the You Had Me at Bigfoot podcast, and Dave the Outlandish is this self-proclaimed. He speaks to demons and spirits and stuff like that. He's a pretty out there guy. I don't necessarily believe everything, but it's certainly very fascinating, and I give the guy a lot of credit that he puts himself out there. And he said that, which is quite interesting, that demons, spirits, if you want to call them that, it's a huge expenditure of energy to physically manifest itself into a creature. What it's easier for them to do is to make you think that you're seeing them, almost like a hallucination. And they can do this hallucination on 2 or 3 people, make 2 or 3 people thinking that they're seeing a dogman out in a field, and that and they can manifest the brush moving and even footprints, but it's much easier to make you think you're seeing it and make you think you're shooting at it when you're really shooting at nothing than it would for it to be a physical creature that manifested itself that is, otherworldly, invincible. So these are all interesting theories. Whatever it is, there seems to be 2 very separate things. Like I said, Dogman, the terrifying creature that seems to have some unearthly origins, but is still obeys the laws of nature, so to speak, that they can be wounded and they can be killed and they have to hunt and survive, and that sometimes they encounter humans, look over and go, oh, a human, and walk away. And then there's something else that seems to be far more inherently evil, inherently supernatural going on. As weird as the Bigfoot world gets, the Dogman world is really out there, and I find it fascinating. And it's one of those things you get, you do a lot of research into Dogman, you hear a lot of stories, and it gives you nightmares. Or what had to me last time, I got a little too close to the Dogman subject as I was laying in bed, not even thinking about it, and I closed my eyes, and I just saw flashing images of a Dogman in my head, and I just had to take a deep breath, get up, get a glass of water, go back to bed, and kind of push it out of my brain playing tricks on me. So it really is kind of a haunting image. And if you look back at the images of Anubis or the werewolves all throughout Eastern Europe, and even the native people in North America talking about these things going back, a lot of people say it's a new phenomenon, and I get it that it's now a new thing, we're talking about it more, but if you look historically, there's a lot of record of these things. And people seem to talk about 2 very separate things. People have wild, really out there crazy stories of these things just appearing out of thin air and running into the woods and vanishing, cloaking like the predator. And there's other stories of these things just being like a pack of wild dogs or like a pack of wolves and moving through properties and can be very aggressive. And there's stories of people killing these things and shooting them. And then there's some really out there glowing red eye stories. And I just kind of wanted to put it to a warning to you guys that with these creatures, people are seeing them, as strange as it sounds, as out there as it is, and as much hate as there's going to be in the comments of, you guys are crazy, they don't really exist. Okay, but just understand, if they do exist and you go out into the woods armed and prepared and on your toes, you're much better off. And if they don't exist, you're still better off for going out in the woods armed and prepared and being on your toes and being alert. there's a lot of missing people out there. There's a lot of things we just can't understand or just don't understand. And I think this kindly fits into one of those categories. So there's seems to be two separate things going on. And I highly recommend you guys go check out the podcast. You Had Me at Bigfoot. I was on there last night. There's a lot of joking around too. It's kind of a fun show, but they do kind of a fun take on serious subjects. I've been a guest on there, and I'm kind of a co-host by now. So we have a lot of fun, but there's also some very serious stuff. And it's really neat for me because I get to talk to people who, psychics about cryptid activity. I get to talk to demonologists about cryptid activity. I get to talk to people who aren't necessarily in this realm, maybe UFO people, about what they think is going on. And it's quite interesting to get to different perspectives. But like I said, this is my general warning. There are two things going on. I find it very fascinating that the native tribes, a lot of them, if you speak to them, they say, kill them on sight, shoot them. And I thought that seemed to be pretty extreme. So I just want to say thank you very much. Stay safe in the woods, and just be aware there are two things going on when you talk about Dogman, and to a lesser extent Bigfoot, because you also get Bigfoot stuff about them cloaking and all that other things. So I'm kind of rambling here, but thanks folks. I just wanted to make a quick video on this, and like I said, stay safe in the woods.